What made you say, man, people are dumb? I met this lady. I worked at a tea house. We closed for private events. When we did, it usually meant we closed early. The catch was that the guests still needed to get inside, so we closed the doors but didn't lock them. Signs were posted outside, directly in the path of the door, on big sandwich boards explaining we were closed for a private party. The party starts, gets going, and everyone has arrived. They have their tea, they're having a blast, and 2 hours in, this lady trips over our sign, moves it out of the way, and drags the door open. I'm watching her do this, feeling what little faith I had left in humanity drained away, praying she'll get it together and stay outside. But no, she's determined. She's getting her $7 coffee even if she has to chip a nail to do it. She gets inside, straightens out her coat, huffing at me. You're so unwelcoming, making it so hard to get inside. Anyway, I want... And geez, she's actually trying to order. At this point, the party is starting to notice. She doesn't belong. She isn't here for their baby shower or bridal shower or whatever. Oh, I'm sorry, we're closed. I'm trying to be nice. I've had the face on all day. Surely it will withstand her and my inner anguish will stay under the surface, right? No, I want my latte. She just brushed me aside. Maybe she didn't even hear me. I can't do that for you. We're closed for a private party. I'm sorry. What? Disbelief, shock, it's starting to sink in through her inches of makeup and cloud of self-entitlement scented perfume. She's being told no, perish the thought. Yeah, like the sign you moved out of the way said, we are closed for a private party. I will not be able to serve you today. Polite, firm, passive-aggressive a little. I'm supposed to be the one staff here that's good with the difficult customers. Keep it together, man. Ugh, whatever. Like, I don't read signs. Your coffee isn't that good anyway. I was just supporting you people because you're foreign. And she left in a huff, stumbled around the sign again, and walked down the block to Starbucks. What a piece of humanity. Isn't she probably like an undocumented guest of the private party? Who's the foreign one now? Story 2. I worked at a large department store for a few years, and twice per year we would close at 5 p.m. to do a store-wide inventory. Now, it wasn't like this was a surprise. We'd put multiple large signs throughout the store about 2 weeks in advance. We took out full-page ads in the paper to let customers know. This was back in the late 80s, early 90s, so the internet wasn't a thing yet. It wasn't a secret. The day of the actual inventory, we put 3 very large, like 4-foot-tall signs in each of the now closed entrances to the store, saying, closed at 5 p.m. on date for store inventory. We will reopen tomorrow at 10 a.m. That's pretty clear, right? Well, apparently not for some. We would have people knock on the glass doors and demand to be let in. When we would point to the signs and tell them we were closed, they insisted on being let in because they needed just one thing. Problem was, our registers operated from a central location and we couldn't have done any purchases even if we wanted to. Plus, we were one of 3 anchor stores in the mall, so if they needed something, there were 2 other open department stores where they could shop. And man, we would laugh so hard at these imbeciles. It became even funnier when we'd move to different areas of the store where we weren't visible to the customers, but we could hear them knocking on the doors and yelling. We'd take bets on how long they'd go. Some of them would honestly stand out there for 10 whole minutes before giving up. It was funny, but it also made me sad for humanity at the same time. Story 3. The Cleveland balloon disaster of 1986. At that time, the city of Cleveland attempted to set a Guinness World Record by releasing over 1.5 million balloons into the sky from one location. The resulting cloud was so thick that it temporarily shaded out the sun over part of the city. Many of the balloons went straight into Lake Erie, which interfered with a very urgent Coast Guard search and rescue mission. Most of the remaining balloons drifted up to Canada, where they promptly deflated and littered natural areas en masse. For weeks, the shoreline was covered in pieces of rubber. The Guinness Book of World Records refused to recognize the stunt due to its severe negative impact on the environment. Many of the participants seemed genuinely shocked that the balloons eventually fell back down to the ground. Story 4. On my last trip to Disneyland, I was waiting in line to enter the park. Recently, due to people doing things, Disney has implemented a security checkpoint. This includes a bag check and a metal detector. It moves fast, it's easy, it maybe takes, 3 minutes out of your day? As I was standing there, from behind me, I heard the telltale sign of someone running in flip-flops. I turned around and there was a family of 5 sprinting towards the checkpoint, all in matching shirts, looking like they were running for their lives. Think a parade was about to start or something? Clearly, their lives would end if they didn't make it inside in time to see the old man from up waving on a float. The mom and the three kids slowed down a little to find a security line. The dad didn't. Desperate times called for desperate measures. If he didn't get little Jimmy inside in time to see Moana, things was going to hit the fan. The dad went straight past the bag check, jostling a few people, and continued right through the metal detector. The alarms went off, but he didn't stop, not yet. Security guard jumped in front of him. By the time I got through the line, they had pulled the guy and his completely mortified family off to the side and were attempting to escort them out of the park. The guy was confused, angry, and volatile. What did they mean he couldn't go in? What did they mean he was now a security risk? He's here on vacation. I ended up walking away just close enough to hear an angry, "But we bought tickets." If I had 3 days and a PowerPoint presentation, I still don't think I could explain to that man what he did wrong. By the way, the parade was baller. Story 5. Once during a particularly slow day at my old office, I made a trip to the break room. In addition to the various tables and uncomfortable chairs that adorned the space, there were a few vending machines that dispense a variety of bottled beverages. These machines could be operated in much the same way as any other on the face of the planet. After paying for a product, a person would enter a code, a letter, and a number, specifying what they'd like to purchase, then wait patiently while a series of ominous thumping noises accompanied the delivery of the item in question. This is not a difficult concept to master. As I was approaching to procure a drink for myself, though, I found my path obstructed by a young man who was seemingly intent on the same goal. He went through the precise motions that I just outlined above, indicated his sugar water of choice, and then became thoroughly distraught when his selection arrived. "Aw, man," the guy yelled. "Where's my cola? Where's my cola, man? They sent my cola." Now, lest you think that someone had stocked the beverages incorrectly, let me reassure you. This machine was a store with a large window covering its front, which gave potential customers a view of their choices. Furthermore, the bottles of Coca-Cola took up the entire level of the row marked with an E, whereas the bottles of Sprite, which is what the young man wound up with, were located at the C level. Despite this, the fellow had somewhat chosen the wrong thing. "Did you see that?" he said, turning to me. "Did you see that? Aw, man, where's my cola?" I shrugged and offered the guy a bewildered smile, then suggested that he bring the drink to the office concierge if he wanted to request a refund. "Nah, man," came the response. "Nah, I'm good." With that, he turned and slid several more coins into the machine's receptacle regarding its contacts and selected another Sprite. "Aw, hell, man, you see that? You see that? It did it again. Where's my cola? That ain't my cola, man." Looking incredibly irritated, the young man grabbed his second Sprite and stormed from the break room. Maybe he thought it was C for cola? Makes enough sense for a dimwit like that, right? Or maybe he was just trying to get a free soda. Story 6. The main movie theater by me didn't start doing reserved seating until about a year ago, when Captain America Civil War came out. I got there about an hour early so I could sit in the sweet spot, and I was one of the first few people there. The theater was almost entirely full 5 minutes before showtime. At that point, a guy walks in with his friend, sees the theater is packed, and that his only option is to sit in the very first row. He starts throwing a temper tantrum in the theater and literally starts screaming to his friend, asking what the point is and buying his ticket online ahead of time. Again, they did not have reserved seating at the time. He storms out, and I thought that was the end of it. A minute later, he drags in this poor employee and points out the full theater and starts berating him, asking him what they're going to do about his inconvenience. I was about to get up and tell him he needed to leave, but then the manager came in with a police officer and asked to speak with him outside. He left and didn't come back in. Story 7. When my younger brother went to see Age of Ultron with his 5 friends, they arrived so early they were the first group in line. This theater did not have reserved seating. Several theater workers walked by them and said hello multiple times. When they were finally allowed into the theater, they selected seats, and 3 of them, Read half of their group, including my brother, left hoodies on the seats and went to go get concessions for the group. They were advised not to leave the line while waiting in the hall, so now was their time. When my brother and his partners came back, 3 fat strangers were sitting in his and his friends' seats. The 3 friends who had stayed were arguing with these people who were sitting on my brother's hoodie, no less saying, "See, get up, we told you our friends would come back." The fat people were repeating, "Whatever, man, you can't save seats." My brother went to get a theater worker. The worker came to the scene, and you can imagine the back and forth argument of, we weren't saving seats. You can't save seats. His code is already there. One of the fat people pulled my brother's hoodie out and tossed it on the floor. Ultimately, the theater worker, whom my brother and all of his friends recognized as one of the workers who had passed them several times in the hallway 2 hours prior, shrugged and said, well, you did get up and you can't save seats on opening nights like this. My brother had to watch the movie from the first row. I told him I would have dropped my Sprite all over the squatters, then taken the seat back after they jumped up in disgust. Story 8. How people managed to screw up marking people as passed away on government databases. In one department I worked in, the system was deliberately designed to warn you multiple times when you were marking someone as gone. The first screen was a warning. You had to confirm halfway through that they were gone. The last screen said something along the lines of, this will cancel their payment and it will write to their next of kin automatically. If the person is in fact alive, this will cause severe distress, before asking you to confirm again that you were really, really sure. We still got living people coming in incredibly angry for some reason, can't imagine why, with a letter from us informing them that we were sorry to hear they'd pass away. My current work in a hospital still has some absolute gems, like the person who called to confirm a surgery for a patient and then decided to mark them as gone because the patient's wife said, oh, he's not able to make it. He was on holiday. And someone goes, yep, must be passed away. For consistency, though, we also have the opposite, like where we literally have certificates and other paperwork confirming the person is actually gone. And as far as the system is concerned, your patient is still alive. Can you imagine? Imagine being so dedicated to the art of trolling that you become a doctor just to declare random people gone. Yeah, I know, a bit extreme, but hey, let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the stories. Story 9. I had to go to a small random private school because of my disabilities. Class sizes were 10-ish people, I guess. It was a very upper-class school, and a lot of the kids there had famous parents. We had a cooking class, and part of the assessment was to cook an item and clean up after yourself. I was very much excluded from the tight-knit group of rich kids because I was there because I needed to be there. Also, growing up on a farm made me extremely hands-on. The dishwasher broke and everyone started leaving and being like, it's impossible to finish this assessment, blah, blah, blah. I was the only one to chuck a plug in and clean up. One of the girls asked me what I was doing. So this day, I'm dumbfounded how life-dumb they were, never stayed in contact. Story 10. I live close to a large business that has a decent-sized parking lot within view of my home. During the early days, it's pretty much empty. Just the other day, there was a handful of folks, including a baby in a car seat, running a free car wash with a sign asking for donations. The one holding the sign stood by the road trying to get attention while the others waited in the middle of the lot waiting to do the washing. The guy with the sign had a technique I would consider aggressive. He stood just screaming, free car wash! Who doesn't want a free wash? Anytime the cars he was singling out, pointing and screaming at didn't turn into the lot, which was every single one of them, all the while having a very loud and public argument with the girl who I imagine was both his SO and baby mama over his less than appealing marketing tactics. This went on for around 2 hours before they either gave up or were forced to leave, but the bone-dry pavement tells me that they didn't make a single dime. Story 11. Work in retail. While I had thought individual people were dumb and ridiculous prior to working retail, working there has made me think, holy, most people are so stupid that it's not the individual that's dumb, it's the majority. So instead of looking at a dumb person and thinking they're unique for being dumb, I look at smart people and think they're unique for being smart. I'm sure you want some examples. 1. 90% of customers are incapable of realizing that when the PIN pad is asking for their phone number and has 10 spaces on it, that they should include the 3-digit area code to fill all 10 spaces, instead of filling 7 and then wondering why there are 3 more spaces. 2. Customers always ask what the price of something is, saying there is no price on it, despite the price literally being on the label attached to the product. If they're asking for the price because it could be on sale, that's different. But when they're asking for a price while complaining it's not priced when there's a price on it, then they're stupid. 3. Actual conversation. Customer. These bowls say microwave safe. Does that mean they're safe to use in the microwave? 4. Another actual conversation. My daughter's 10, but all of these toys are for ages 6 or 8. All of the toys were, for example, ages 6 plus and 8 plus, but she didn't know that the plus meant and up over. 5. Customer gives phone number for the rewards lookup. No account found. Me. Is there another phone number it could be? Customer. Oh, it could be my old phone number. I just changed my number a few weeks ago. Our machines are not advanced enough to know not only when a customer changes their phone number, but to update it to the new phone number on their own when they do. I could go on, but I'm sure you get the point. Story 12. I got a job at a bank. I worked there and saw what people did with their money. Here are a few examples. 1. Getting yelled at because person used their debit card 10 times, knowing there was no money in it. 2. Having 20 overdrafts a month on average and 0 complaints or effort to stop. 3. Customers who are employees coming to cash their checks are mad at you because their employer didn't put cash in the payroll account. Quit that job, schmuck. He did it last week too, and he's going to do it again next week. 4. Give your debit card to employees, friends, girlfriends, etc. Well, you shouldn't have told me because now it's commented on your account, and they won't refund any fraud resulting from it. As an aside, you should get an account at a community bank. They usually have better interest rates for interest-bearing and charging accounts. They also have fewer and less fees for account usage and penalties. Story 13. One of my first cars, I had an issue where it would stall out constantly. It would start back up but struggle to start with every stall. I was driving to my mechanic hoping I could get there. It would only stall when I came to a stop, so if I had to stop, I got my car as close to the edge of the road as possible. Sure enough, I stalled out, pulled over at a red light. It was a tight area and there wasn't street parking there, so I ended up blocking the lane. I put my hazards on, got out of the car, and leaned against it while standing on the sidewalk waiting for a tow truck. You have no idea how many people slammed the horn yelling at the unoccupied car with hazards on and somebody leaning against it. And I don't mean in a long line of traffic, somebody in the back who can't tell I'm broken down. I mean the car directly behind me that sees everything. It was a hot day and most people had their windows down. I pretty much kept yelling, "I'm broken down, go around." A good amount of people felt embarrassed when they realized how obvious it was and how quickly they got angry, slamming the horn. But I couldn't believe how many people actually got even more mad at me for pointing out their stupidity. Story 14. I just finished school in pastry and baking arts. One of my classmates was a complete disaster. We got to the cake portion of our curriculum and recipes for vanilla cakes are pretty consistent. Flour, milk, eggs, sugar, a touch of salt, baking powder, vanilla. Basic cake ingredients. And when you make enough cake, you know when something looks off. When there's too much flour or not enough egg. And one of the things I noticed about when I was sharing a recipe with this pathetically dumb classmate was that this recipe didn't have sugar. It looked weird and I went to taste the batter, clearly didn't have sugar. And no matter how many times I told my classmate that she hadn't added sugar, she insisted that she had weighed out the sugar and added. But you can taste when sugar is in a recipe and clearly it hadn't been added to this one. I called our chef over to make a point of it and the girl flipped out and screamed at our chef. She was so ridiculously dumb. Even after trying the batter, she still insisted she'd added the sugar. It was so absurd. I'd never seen an adult storm out of a classroom or kitchen like that. She did a lot of other stupid stuff too, and so much comes to mind, but this one story is the easiest to explain without the backstory of her crazy antics. Story 15. Not people so much as person. I work with this guy who people constantly say, he's a really smart guy because he speaks Japanese or whatever. I realized not long after meeting him that he was a moron though. Anyway, we work in a restaurant, he's a server, and I do expo, which is like an intermediary between the cooks and the servers. I do the final plating, dressing, presentation, the last little add-ons to dishes before they go out, then they tray them up and drop them off. Most days our head chef and I work side by side. Anyways, on one particularly busy day, a server was scheduled to help because we were slammed in the kitchen and the chef was busy on the line. Our asparagus is topped with olive oil, dressed arugula, and finely shredded parmesan. As I was traying up with the table's entree, I handed the server a plate of asparagus and told him, "This just needs the arugula and cheese." Now, this is a server who is supposed to know our menu inside and out, not be only maybe passingly familiar with the food. When he grabbed the plate of asparagus, he stared down at the things in front of him, a station full of the things we need, and the arugula is literally inches from his free hand. He stared for a good 10 seconds and then picked up a bottle of truffle oil and slowly began opening it to pour on the asparagus. This is only used for one dish and is not the olive oil the arugula is dressed in. I didn't have the patience or time to watch him mess things up, so I yelled at him and pointed out what he actually needed and got things moving, then sent him out with the tray. Our chef looked at me and laughed and said, "He was a little confused there, huh?" To which I responded with an exasperated sigh and shake of my head. It'd be one thing if this only happened once, but an hour later, when we were less busy and our chef was back on my side on the line helping Expo, the same thing happened again, but this time, chef was the one who handed him the asparagus, And this time, the server grabbed the bottle of truffle oil after 5 seconds or so. When our chef saw this, his face went from a casually relaxed face to a mouth-gaping look of utter bewilderment. Before speaking, he looked at me with shocked eyes the size of dinner plates, full of complete disbelief, then turned to the server and said, "Hold on, wait, go get one of the managers." Once he'd left the kitchen, the chef turned to me with the same astonished look and said, "I told him to put arugula on there. He grabbed the truffle oil." And as he was saying it, it was still obvious he couldn't believe it. I told him, "Yeah, that's why I yelled at him earlier. He's already made that mistake." And the chef said, "Jesus Christ, how can we trust him to talk about our menu items when he doesn't know arugula isn't a liquid?" At that point, the server came back with the manager and chef bitched them out for scheduling a stupid person to expo, which can mess up the flow of a restaurant really fast. Honestly, though, I knew the guy was dumb already. It wasn't long before this happened that someone convinced him that Braille was a bird related to the quail and that it was going to be our special the next week. If you're enjoying some of the stupidity in this video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this because you can't always go wrong with more. Story 16. I work at a paint store. The level of incompetence in painters is absolutely flabbergasting. When I started with the company a year ago, I was a little slow on the computer systems in large part because they're a Linux-based POS system designed to look and function like a DOS prompt. This one particular painter shouted at me for nearly a minute because I wasn't fast enough, and for the next 6 months refused to let me serve him. Today he came in and had the confidence to ask me about what products he should use for a particular job. 7 months ago, I was apparently too stupid, pathetic, and useless to help him. But now I know more about his job than he does. The degree of incompetence with painters floors me almost every single day. The overwhelming majority of them have no idea how to do their job and regularly ask us to tell them what they need. These are people who have years and sometimes decades of experience who are unable to tell me the square footage of what they're going to be painting, when the answer is quite literally an extremely simple math equation that they would have learned in the 3rd grade. They don't know what kind of paint to use, they don't know what sheen to use, they don't know what brushes to use. The only thing they do know is that they want it for as cheap as humanly possible. I'm pretty sure I could train a pack of wild dogs to paint better than the average moron who walks into the store. I would say around 5% of our customers are actually competent. Story 17. People are dumb because no one realizes that the human race would be so much more evolved and ahead if we just put aside all differences. For example, race, religion, politics, and started to work on things we actually need to worry about, like, I don't know, maybe our plastic-filled oceans, getting food and water to other nations that need it, stopping our world air pollution or just pollution in general, and freeing other people from actual tyranny. Once the world is united, then we can worry about exploring other planets if we need to start a space force. People are dumb because no matter what, everyone finds something to complain about instead of fixing the problem. It's okay to disagree with someone, but don't let that get in the way of our progression. If we do, we stop progressing and start fighting, and then we have to rebuild what we already had. It seems like it gets worse and worse, 1 step forward and 2 back. People are dumb because money is what controls our lives. It seems as though money is what makes us happy when it shouldn't be. Being alive is what should make us happy. Enjoying what we do have before it's gone, finding someone you love and want to spend your life with. Why has money and greed taken over all of that? Who cares if you're Black, Asian, Hispanic, Caucasian, or whatever else? Nor does it matter if you're LGBTQ+, as long as you treat people the way you want to be treated, good karma will come back. People are dumb because we don't realize that there is more good in the world than bad. But that could go away. We keep letting bad people get away with what they shouldn't. Unfortunately, we are not ready for a one-world government yet, again, because people are too dumb to understand the concept that if we work together, we can make things the way we want them to be and how they should be. But again, people are too dumb. Okay, rant over. Story 18. I used to work in credit card customer service. A girl called one day asking about her balance, how it was still close to her limit even though she made her payment. No problem, I'll take a look at it. I look into her account and it seems that she didn't really get how credit cards or money worked. Her limit was $1,000. She charged pretty close to her limit, made the minimum payment, and was confused as to why there wasn't another $1,000 available to her. She thought she would pay the minimum, then get another $1,000 every month. I had to explain how credit cards work and was inches from just asking her, "Did you think the bank would give you $900+? You gave them $25, then they'd just give you a fresh start? How does that make sense?" The conversation didn't end well. She was angry that she had to pay back the money. I didn't know what to tell her. She ended the call by asking for a credit line increase. Yeah, no. Story 19. Worked at a ski resort as a lift mechanic. The number of people I would see ride the lift, get to the top, and then point their skis directly down a black diamond run while having no clue how to ski was amazing. It was a small resort, so you could see the whole run. You'd see the person ease themselves to the beginning of the slope, then just head straight down. About halfway down the slope, while on the verge of going past the speed of sound, they'd realize they have no clue on how to slow themselves down. So they do what any sane person would do and flail their arms hoping that wind resistance would stop them. That's my theory. After that, usually came the total loss of control and the total yard sale, and in about 60% of the instances, an injury. Even if they did make it down and didn't manage to hurt themselves, their lift ticket was clipped and they were removed from the resort. But snow is soft, right? Not packed man-made snow. I don't live in a region with enough snowfall to facilitate a resort on its own. We made 90% of our own snow. It's skiable, but it's not like the movies where you're standing in hip-deep in powder. Also, just an FYI, if you're ever at a ski resort and on a chairlift and the power goes out, National Code for People Movers requires a secondary power source that doesn't rely on the electrical grid. So don't panic. At the resort I worked at, the lifts ran on power and the alternative power source was a Ford straight 6. The bigger lifts run diesel motors. You just have to give us time to get the engine fired and the clutch engaged. Jumping off the chairlift is not going to do you any favors. There was a movie called Frozen, made in 2010 about 3 dumb people who were stuck on a chairlift. Everything about chairlifts and resort management is wrong in that movie. Not 1 or 2 things, just about everything. Story 20. I used to work in retail customer service, and a woman came in with a bag of stuff. She wanted to do a return. We have a system where you don't necessarily need a receipt as long as you have the card you purchased the item with. When she put stuff on the table, I noticed we don't carry any of these brands. I told her these might be from another store. She insisted that they're from this store, so I scanned all of them and none showed up. She put up a huge argument saying I don't know what I'm doing and we scammed her. She demanded to talk to the manager, so I had to call him down from his office. She told him she wanted the money back and he tried to resolve it. She argued back and forth about how our system cheated her. My manager told her if she can look for receipts, we will refund her and offer her an extra gift card for the inconvenience. After about 10 minutes of her ransacking through her purse, she pulled out a receipt. This lady slammed on the counter and told the manager he needed to apologize to her. My manager looked at her and said, "Do you know where you are?" and asked her to look at the receipt. This woman brought in a Target receipt to Kohl's. Story 21. I work at a coffee shop with a lot of high schoolers. I do it part-time for fun. One of the laziest workers begs our manager to hire her BFF for life, and she reluctantly agrees. Let's call her M. We use an app called Homebase that allows us to request shift trades with other employees and see our schedule, check our earnings, clock in and out. It allows us to see who was new and who was training. M sent me and 4 other coworkers a shift trade request for training hours and no one accepted it because it was a training shift. She sent a tirade paragraph out to the 4 of us calling us stupids and she'd remember that. A week later, I was closing with her and she was training with one of our veterans who also trained me. Her and I got along well and she kept helping me with orders at the drive-thru. This left M by herself at times. She ended up somehow at the front register, rigging all these orders wrong, and when the trainer asked her about it, she tried to blame it on me. The last straw was that she didn't show up for a shift during the morning rush and told my boss 2 hours after her shift began that she was sick and couldn't get out of bed. She forgot she was friends with our coworkers and uploaded pictures of herself partying and drinking the night before on Facebook. She didn't understand why she got fired for being sick. Story 22. While studying to be a teacher early on in college, it changed not long after this, I had to go through a ton of observation hours at a local high school. I was studying to become a secondary special education teacher. My new major revolves around this topic as well. Anyway, I was a senior in CP English class at this high school, and I was observing 3 kids in a class with learning disabilities of roughly 25 to 30 kids total. The teacher turns to me and tells me, in the middle of teaching, if I know MLA format and if I could teach it to the class because she doesn't know it. Mind you, she is a teacher. I knew she had her degree and everything, but also at the same time, none of the kids in the class knew how to do MLA format. Now, I was expecting to help with the 3 I was mainly attending to, but I was taken off guard with this, big time. Story 23. My design team has a project markup tool that most of the company can successfully use. We also accept design edits via email, commented PDF, phone, in-person visits, or, on the rare occasion, handwritten notes on a printed copy that has been scanned back in. We're pretty easygoing. Today, someone decided to give us their edits by uploading a Word doc to our design folder. Not right, but okay. File is called pic.docx. I began to get a bad feeling. Pic.docx is indeed a Word doc containing nothing but a picture, specifically a very tiny screenshot of someone's desktop. Said screenshot contains an open PDF of the original design project. They have gone in and edited that PDF to say, fix this space, and then highlighted a space that is indeed incorrect. I've seen worse feedback methods, but that one takes the cake on being such a weird mix of competence and Why would they edit a PDF but not send that? And who uses Acrobat then screenshots a docx of their desktop? Whatever, I go into InDesign and fix the errant space, then save out the new draft, and I realize there in the new draft it says, fix this space. Someone had accessed the original file, wrote their correction in, saved out the file, opened the PDF, took a screenshot, saved it in a Word doc, and uploaded it to our design folder. And it's only Monday. Story 24. My cousin, let's call her Mammy. Let me preface this by saying she is not unintelligent, but she literally has zero common sense. My ex-sister-in-law used to watch Mammy's kids for a couple of hours every Friday, and then Mammy's mom, aunt, and would pick them up when she got off work. One Thursday, my aunt was going out of town and let Mammy know she'd be back on Saturday. Mammy dropped off the kids at SIL's on Friday afternoon as usual and went to work. My SIL got worried when my aunt didn't pick up the kids on time and called her, and the aunt told SIL she was out of town. So SIL ended up having to watch the kids all night. My other cousin, Mammy's sister, who we'll call Macy, came over to help her. Finally, at least an hour after she was supposed to get off, Mammy arrived at my SIL's place to pick up the kid. She started telling them both how she got off work in panic when she drove by my aunt's house and it was all dark and locked because she didn't know where the kids were. Mammy apparently drove all over town looking for them, waking up her day babysitter and asking her if she had seen them or knew where they were. Mammy finally called her mom, who told her she was out of town like she told her she'd be. And Mommy said, I didn't know that being out of town on Thursday and Saturday meant you'd be gone on Friday too. It was at this point that she finally had the bright idea to go look for her kids at the place she left them. Or maybe my aunt told her to, who knows. Kids are juniors in high school now, and it's probably only through the grace of their father that they've even survived this long. Story 25. I work at the convention center here in my city, and it astounds me how dumb people can truly be through lack of observing their surroundings. We recently had our annual pet expo where people bring in the animals, visit different booths, and obtain a bunch of animal swag. It's a grand old time, except where occasionally a dog will inevitably take a mess on our carpet, and I and my team are supposed to clean it up. It's understandable. Nothing bothers me more than a dog taking a mess on the carpet than 3 women staring into their phone, walking in between 3 caution signs, and then proceeding to look back only to discover something on their shoes. I was the only one who saw this happen, and I swear to God I had to use every ounce of my willpower to not shout at these dumb people for being completely ignorant due to the possibility of losing my job for it. The world doesn't owe you anything, even if you're looking out for people with a literal sign saying caution. Story 26. I learned it at a very early age. My mom worked in a social center that dealt with everything from elderly who needed assistance in daily life to orphans, children who got taken away from their parents because those parents have drinking problems, or children who had serious mental health issues, and all that other fun stuff most people in society want to ignore because it makes them feel sad. Well, nothing makes you question the intelligence of humans more than parents who are in no way ready to take care of children, making children and immediately failing horribly at taking care of said children, and sometimes doing it multiple times in a row with multiple children. Plus, it also made me completely disregard this notion that just because you have reached old age, someone who is like 60 plus years old, you are quote unquote wise. Like there are so many stupid old people that it makes me question how these people even manage to get through life with that sort of intelligence to begin with. And no, they were not senile or had any psychological problems because of their age or something like that. They were always like that, even in their younger years. They were stupid people when they were young, and somehow they managed to reach old age and still be like that. It's mind-boggling. God bless my mom because I could not ever do that sort of job myself. I always try to surround myself with smart and intelligent people because of it. I just can't stand it. Story 27. While I used to work as a cashier at a fast food restaurant, my entire experience there could be summed up as, man, people are dumb. There's one guy, though, that kind of stands out. One time we ran out of medium-sized cups, so anyone who ordered a medium drink got a large-sized drink for the price of a medium drink. Sounds like a pretty good and fair deal, right? Not to this one guy. This dude just could not comprehend that he was getting more soda for less money, and he was so angry about it. I kept trying to explain the concept to him, slower each time and with smaller words, but he was adamantly angry at us for overcharging him. Eventually, I just gave him a large drink for the price of a large drink and he left happily. Whatever. Story 28. When the entire company migrated over to Office 365, they sent emails with instructions on how to do this 2 weeks in advance. They amounted to log in with your new email address and your company login after that. Queue over 10,000 calls 2 weeks later to the service desk over the course of the next couple of months of people asking, how do I log into the new email? God, those few months were so crushing, like working on an assembly line giving the same simple answer to 50 or 60 calls a day. Then there were the middle-aged plus people who needed me to stay with them and walk them through it, never mind that it required basic knowledge like clicking on the Outlook icon and logging in using your email and the credentials you use every single day, and you're done. But no, computers are terrifying, so they need their handheld through even the most basic unknown territory. Story 29. Sheep mentality. Was at Italy on vacation in 2009, was part of a big tourist group of 50 plus people in Italy. Classic tour rules say you have 2 hours free time at some point for shopping and other stuff. After the shopping time is over, everybody meets up at the rendezvous point. Everyone except our guides. 15 minutes pass, nothing. 30 minutes pass, no sign of the guides. A couple of us call the tour agency to check what happened. No one picks up. It's getting late and everybody has tickets for a night tour at some museum, can't remember which one, but everyone agrees that we should go there by ourselves. The museum was like 20 minutes on foot, tops. The one guy that speaks louder and was the most angry about the guides ditching us takes control over the group and rallies them over in the wrong direction. Some of us point out that the museum is the other way around and he insists that he knows where he's going. Me and a couple of others disband from the group and go our separate ways. Like 8 to 10 of us arrive at the museum almost 1 hour later. At the time the night tour starts, no one else has shown up, and by the end of it, there's no sign of the rest of the group. Next morning, the tour agency bus arrived at the hotel with everyone else. They all looked like they had spent the night in the forest. It seems that the guy who was shouting made the rest of the group board a bus and took them out of the city. Our tour guides were at the hospital. They had a car accident at some point, and being a tiny agency, the guys at the office went to check up on them at the hospital. It seems like the police contacted the tour agency when there was a group of 40 plus people in the middle of nowhere near the highway. It was a weird holiday. Story 30. I'm a server and bartender at this cute little wine bar in the downtown area of my town. We have limited food options because we didn't want to take away from the wine theme we have, but alas, people need to eat. So we have 8 pre-designed pizzas and we don't swap out the toppings unless you want something removed. We had this one couple come in and order a pepperoni pizza and they literally finished it before I could fill their wine glasses back up at the bar. I asked how the pizza was and they said it was great, but they were in a rush. They wanted to try the ketogenic crepes next door at a coffee shop. I had mentioned how a nutritionist friend of mine is going keto and she eats a lot of bacon and avocado for healthy fats, and this lady looked me in the eye and says, "Oh, I don't eat pork. I can't stand to think of what they do to the poor little piggies." I swear, I must have looked at her for a solid minute before I just said, "Okay, enjoy your day." And then went back to the bar and was like, "What in the world? You ate an entire pepperoni pizza." Sometimes you just cannot fix stupid. And if you can relate to any one of these stories, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video, and thanks for bearing with me on this one.